put you in that CEO spot. You demote your own ass down to entry level.
Business change. Sometimes you gotta change with the
Whatever the you say, me.
When we talk about Ronnie Mathis, he's a character who still remains a bit of a mystery and will do so until the time is right. The writers have introduced him as this enigma, and they're taking the patient approach before they integrate him into the wider world of Raising Kanan. Now, when he does get into the mix, we will see him handing a brick to Kanan, so at some point, he'll meet Kanan and begin to have a real influence on him in the streets and his progress into the real world. I also think he'll be the one to introduce him to Ishmael Snaps Henry, but so far they're taking their time to build his character. The writers have us questioning, where does Ronnie fit into the story? Why is he the way he is? What's he thinking, and why is he so creepy? You can see there's a huge disconnect between him and Unique, because over time there's been a shift in power, with Ronnie spending 3 years upstate, and a lot has happened in between then, with Unique now in a romantic relationship with Rock, which will definitely complicate a few things. But just to give Ronnie some more background and context, this is what Sasha Penn had to say prior to season 3. All of these characters allow us to build out the world and explore the different pieces of that world, new dimensions, tensions, and new conflicts, and when you have great characters, you can take big swings. Grantham Coleman, who plays Unique's brother, is a real and dangerous presence. So with that being said, in this video we're going to be exploring Ronnie Mathis' next move and how he's going to be a menace on the streets. We're going to explore some real life stories in regards to his release, but more so where he fits into the storyline with his relationship with Unique, Rock, and Kanan, how he also wanted to take Rock out back in the day, but how he'll begin to have a huge impact on Kanan Stark, and also the story with Unique and Raquel Thomas in Raising Kanan Season 3. Now, just before we get into Ronnie's story, let's take a look at how he was released, which does tie into a real-life case.
Wrongfully imprisoned men are released this week. As you may remember, Detective Sacristano was found guilty of manufacturing evidence against at least 10 men.
So it was said that Ralph Sacristano manufactured evidence against at least 10, and there were a further 3 that were mentioned in episode 2, which brings the total to 13, which I personally don't think will be the last either. I do feel like they're building on something with the number that they've released, and not all of them may play a role, but 1 or 2 of these 13 I do feel will come across into the mix in some shape or form, or possibly characters that are released later on. But the story of Ralph Sacristano is something which separates Raising Kanan to the other shows. They've got this realism, the authenticity is there, and they're also bringing the 90s era to life through real life stories. So this is the real life Ralph Sacristano, the real life NYPD officer that I believe the writers may have taken their inspiration from. A former detective who went by the name Louis Scarcella. He was the detective that was accused of framing dozens of people for murder. The allegations went public when a witness claimed an unnamed detective, believed to be Scarcella, told him which suspect to pick out of a huge lineup for a murder that took place in Brooklyn in 1990. He was dubbed the closer because his convictions rate was so high, but they were so high because he was influencing cases in a manner which they shouldn't be, hence why Howard said in episode 2, he always questioned Sacristano's convictions rates. So bringing it back to Raising Kanan, this is how Ronnie was released. Ralph Sacristano manufactured evidence against him 3 years ago, and his case was overturned. Now, he was released slightly earlier than expected because TB was rife, which is quite common in prisons. There's a lot of viruses and illnesses which are passed on from inmate to inmate because of living conditions, lack of ventilation, and so on. But instantly we got the sense that there was more to Ronnie Mathis. He sat there in silence eating his Cheerios. He took one glance at his brother, and he could smell his bullshit from a mile away when he threw him the lie about the blood on his sleeve. So instantly we got a sense that this was a character who was very observant, as people in prison normally are, and like they described Dean in season 1, Ronnie is also silent but violent. Now, not only was he very observant and attentive to detail, we have to remember, Ronnie was the guy in the streets before he went inside 3 years ago. He was the one who was running Unique's operation. He made the deals with High Post over particular blocks and territory. So when they were driving around the neighborhood and he saw the corners empty, he was annoyed, and there are 2 ways you can look at this. Unique wasn't wrong because things have definitely changed. But from Ronnie's point of view, 3 years ago he had his guys posted up on every single corner getting paid, and in turn, putting money in his pocket. He also made it known that he gave Unique his role as his leader, so coming out of prison with literally next to nothing, no organization, no plug, and no crew, you can understand why he's pissed and hurt at the same time. He's having to crash at Unique's place, ironing the same jeans he walked into the club with, where he was disrespected for what he was wearing, and he thinks Rock is taking food off their table. But little does he know, Unique's actually involved in a romantic relationship with Rock, and we're going to get to that part of the story in just a moment. But the writers do continue to toy with us. I just mentioned how he was ironing his clothes, and the way he just stood there, I can't lie, it was very creepy, which I think the writers are going for with his character. He was disrespected by the bouncer for what he was wearing, After he spent some good time getting ready earlier in the day, which I actually found quite funny. Ronnie spent some good time ironing his clothes only for this bouncer to talk shit about his appearance, but from then on, literally the whole night he was locked in. He wasn't worried about bottles or girls or having a good time. He was zoned in, eyes on the bouncer, and no doubt, they are setting him up for revenge, which will be our first glance at what he's capable of.
Jerome went downstairs last night to get a glass of water, and Ronnie was just sitting there on the couch in the dark staring at the TV. The TV wasn't on.
Now, running it back to the mystery of Ronnie's character, the writers definitely are enjoy toying with us and even misdirecting us into thinking he is Breeze, which I personally don't think he is. I can see why it would look that way to the audience, with the tease of him watching TV, him being mysterious, and him also stepping to Kanan at some stage and mentoring him. But I personally feel that Ronnie is a huge misdirect, which is just my opinion, based on how the writers want us to look at Ronnie's character. Now, on this Rock and Unique situation, whether Unique is running game or not, I think we're about to find out when we hear more of their conversation in the gym in episode 3. But as Ronnie says, if Rock is breathing, she's hustling, and he isn't wrong. Rock can say she's out the game all she wants, but we all know deep down, and so does Ronnie, she's a hustler, and maybe they should have taken her out back in the day. And so I do think this will cause some conflict with Unique. No doubt at some stage we're going to see this big brother little brother conflict in regards to running their operation. Unique won't want to give up that leadership role, and Ronnie won't like taking orders from Unique either. So expect some conflict similar to how we've seen brothers fight in the Power universe before, but Rock will definitely be an added complexity to their relationship. Rock is considered an enemy, and what's interesting is Rock doesn't know about Unique and Rock doesn't know that Ronnie is out either. Unique's kept it quiet on both sides, which is why I think he could be playing a bigger game, or keeping his cards really close to his chest, because he knows what his brother's like, and he also knows that Rock is danger herself. So watching this conflict play out between Unique, Rock, and Ronnie will definitely be interesting. Now, Ronnie is a bit of an old school guy. I briefly mentioned how he was the one who was running shit back in the day, but since he's been out, we haven't really seen him talk much or connect with any of his boys from a few years ago. So where are the guys that he used to run with? I think we may have got our clue in the season trailer, Ishmael Snaps Henry. We've got Ronnie pictured with Ishmael Snaps Henry and his crew in a club, which could also be a few other guys that are released from prison, but I do think this picture is a huge clue. I also think this is how Kanan will meet Snaps. We all know Ronnie will step to Kanan and question whether he's working for Unique, which we all know he ain't. He's setting up his own weed operation using Paul's courier system, but at some stage, we're going to see Kanan running into Snaps at our club with Ronnie in the background. We're also going to see Ronnie handing a brick to Kanan. So just like Detective Howard once said in season 1, if you want to get to the Queen, you gotta go through the Prince, and I think that's what Ronnie's game will be. He'll be mentoring Kanan, but not losing sight of his end goal of building his organization back up and potentially getting rid of Rock. Now, if we're all wondering where did Kanan get his coldness from in Power, then I think look no further than Ronnie. He's as cold as they come, and we're gonna start to see other sides to him soon when he deals with this bouncer. So when we talk about the Kanan we saw on Power, I do feel we are gonna see bits of Ronnie in him as well. Now, how Rock starts to handle this situation with Ronnie and Kanan, I think she's gonna have to do something, because Unique will definitely warn her that Ronnie is getting out of hand. Whether Unique is just using Rock to maybe move Ronnie out the way is a real possibility, so there is gonna be a lot of chess moves in motion, and Rock isn't the only one who can play the game. There are a few others who are coming to play, and Ronnie Mathis is one of them.